Welcome to this week's episode of Jonathan on Money. This is episode number 119. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, Chaverim and Chaverot. I hope you're enjoying your summer. I already started hearing back to school sales on the radio, which was super depressing. And it's amazing how I still find the idea of going back to school to be so depressing, even though I've been finished with school for a long time. I got my MBA 10 years ago and graduated undergrad 18 years ago at this point. I guess other than the social aspect, I never really enjoyed school. It's interesting that my kids seem to all really enjoy going to school, though maybe even more than camp. So go figure. Anyway, one quick note before I get started today, which is my upcoming fall live webinar will start on September 4th, 8 at 8:30 a.m. And it's called Tax Issues with Distressed Real Estate, featuring Matthew E. Rappaport of Falcon Rappaport and Berkman LLP, based in Long Island, New York. And I'll be sure to include the registration information in the show notes of this episode, so be sure to look out for that. Okay, now for today's agenda. And my talking points this week will discuss overcoming anti-Semitism by investing in your Jewishness. Our quote this week is from Charlie Munger on avoiding mistakes. I'll spend the last half of the episode answering listener questions, including what type of retirement account should I set up for my business. And finally, we'll end with an actionable idea to implement to your investing life, where we're going to discuss getting the goalposts to stop moving. And with that, let's jump into this week's talking points. So, since October 7th, 2023, and especially over the past year, I've grown increasingly frustrated with all the anti-Semitism, protesting, and anti-Jewish propaganda that fills my inbox, TV, and social media feeds. It seems like the world has gone mad, openly supporting terrorist groups and doing mental gymnastics to convince the masses it's a noble cause. A few weeks ago, New York City, which has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel and is the center for global capitalism, eagerly supported an openly socialist and anti-Semitic mayoral candidate who won't condemn the word intifada, which calls for the violent destruction of Jews. I'd say we live in unprecedented times, but unfortunately, today's events are reminiscent of Germany in the 1930s. The question many Jews struggle with is, what can I do to effect change? Most of us won't get a spot on Piers Morgan to debate the latest anti-Semitic ignoramus guest that he decides to platform. Few of us have the debating skills and national profile of Ben Shapiro, Natasha Hausdorff, Ami Kozak, Douglas Murray, or Konstantin Kisin. While it's important to have articulate advocates representing Israel and the Jewish people, what is the average person's role in improving the plight of Jews around the world? And I actually heard an interview with Bret Stephens, a Jewish New York Times columnist, where he offered a poignant challenge to the Jewish community to fight anti-Semitism. He said, get 10% Jewier in their daily lives. He clarified that this doesn't necessarily have to do with through religious observance. Simply embrace and express your Jewish identity in a way that feels authentic to you. That is the role of every Jew. Ultimately, I believe that investing in ourselves and our commitment to Yiddishkeit will strengthen the Jewish community to overcome the current challenges. In the investing world, there's a concept called impact investing. This approach aims to align a person's values with their money and resources. And I've suggested the following multi-pronged approach to my Jewish clients who are looking to express their ideals and help affect change with their money. And the first is to invest your money intentionally. In today's world, it's easy to invest your money to benefit Israel and fight anti-Semitism. You could purchase one of the many exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, that holds exclusively Israel-based companies. You could purchase Israeli bonds. You can also directly buy stock of Israeli-based companies. Furthermore, there are many US-based companies with large operations in Israel. By owning their stock, you are also supporting businesses that are benefiting the Israeli economy. There are also investment products on the market now that have the stated objective of investing money in companies that actively fight anti-Semitism. Another suggestion is to actively invest in companies listed on the BDS website, ones they want to ban for supporting Israel, to counter BDS propaganda. Regardless of the road you choose, it's important to work with your financial advisor to determine a strategy that allows you to achieve your goals while supporting the global Jewish community. Next is to invest in your community. Strengthening one's local Jewish community is a wonderful way to help fight anti-Semitism. You can participate in your local branch of CSS, which stands for Community Security Service, which is a 501c3 national organization that works to safeguard the Jewish community by offering free security services. Other ways of investing in your community include showing up to events, shiurim, and bringing in speakers. The anti-Semites seek to instill fear. Anything that increases the vibrancy of Jewish life is a direct way to fight against the anti-Semitic efforts. Philanthropic giving is another way. Where folks decide to allocate their charitable dollars is a powerful way of aligning money with their values. The first step is to commit to giving 10% of your annual net income to charity. And I would urge folks to direct the lion's share of their philanthropic dollars to causes that benefit Jews, Judaism, and Israel. There's no shortage of great causes out there, but there's a finite number of donors giving to Jewish organizations. Next is discretionary spending. As I tell my clients, if you want to know what you really value in life, look at where you spend your money. We're all guilty to some extent of saying we care about things, but behaving in a contrary way. I would encourage readers and listeners to this podcast to evaluate their expenses as well as their portfolio to determine where they spend and invest their money. Understanding where our money goes can be very revealing. It will help direct what we need to do to be more impactful with our dollars, reflecting their values by which we want to live and those that we want to pass down to the next generation. If you're passionate about Israel and the plight of Jews around the world, then your discretionary dollars should be spent to support those areas. This may mean spending your next vacation in Israel instead of a cruise in the Mediterranean or on safari in Kenya. Whether you need a product, service, or are looking to have a nice time with your family, taking the time to find Jewish entrepreneurs to fulfill those needs will help strengthen the Jewish community. In a world with so much anti-Israel and anti-Jewish sentiment, the Jewish community's motto for spending should be support Jewish. Invest your time in learning Torah. Historically, the best way of overcoming anti-Semitism has been the study of Torah. A commitment to our faith has been the reason our people continue to survive through millennia. The Romans, Crusaders, European monarchs, Islamic caliphates, Nazis, and so on have all come and gone, yet the Jews and their commitment to Yiddishkeit have remained and thrived. In today's technologically advanced world, it's easier than ever to learn Torah. While going to a shiur and shul is always rewarding, you can also go online or download a podcast to hear a shiur on any topic you desire. Gemara, Halacha, Tanakh, the Parsha, you name it. Carving out at least 15 minutes a day to learn and reinforce your Jewishness may be the ultimate way to overcome the anti-Semitic wave. And finally, it's worth bringing up sticking together. The hatred of Jews is as old as time. Collectively, we have gone through cycles of hatred and violence throughout the ages. We cannot always control or stop the world's madness. However, the one thing that is within our control is to stick together and invest in ourselves. This means investing in our people, communities, and culture. Eventually, the mobs of protesters will subside, the hateful politicians will be voted out of office, and Israel, which is a beacon of light in a turbulent world, will not be the focus of the world's ire. In the meantime, recommitting to our Jewishness is the ultimate way to overcome adversity and continue succeeding in this volatile world. Okay, those are the talking points this week, and as a reminder, you can be notified of all my recent articles, webinars, and all the work I put out by subscribing to my free monthly newsletter at parkbridgewealth.com/newsletter. This week's quote is by Charlie Munger. I've quoted Munger multiple times, but for those who need a refresher, Charlie Munger was an American investor, attorney, and philanthropist, best known as Warren Buffett's longtime partner and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Munger transitioned from law to investing, shaping Buffett's philosophy by emphasizing quality businesses over bargain buys. He championed rational thinking, ethical decision-making, and multidisciplinary mental models. Munger also chaired Wesco Financial and the Daily Journal Corporation and served on the Costco's board. He was revered for his wit and wisdom. He inspired generations through speeches and his book, Poor Charlie's Almanac. His legacy blends sharp intellect, integrity, a lifelong commitment to learning, and he died at the end of 2023 at the age of 99. What is most remarkable about Munger is he was sharp as a tack with complete mental acuity until he passed away. May we all be zocheh to retain our marbles to such an advanced age. Anyway, a boy once asked Charlie Munger, "What advice do you have for someone like me to succeed in life?" And Munger replied, "Don't do cocaine, Don't race trains to the track, and avoid all AIDS situations. While this retort was undoubtedly made with some level of jest, the truth is the essence of this statement is about avoiding big mistakes. And this is important for life and the key to personal finance as well. There are so many distractions when it comes to our money. Your friend is bragging about how he got access to a hot real estate deal in Texas. Someone at your kiddish club or on the golf course is discussing the merits of private credit without discussing the risks. Your broke brother in law is promoting a stock or cryptocurrency that is sure to skyrocket in value. Perhaps the bad advice comes from professional investors who are trying to get you concentrated on just one or two investments, or promoting high fee, tax inefficient alternative investments that sound cool but will likely underperform the stock market. One of the most important concepts to grow wealth is to avoid big mistakes. Taking small and consistent steps in the right direction with a boring and plain vanilla portfolio while ignoring all the noise is the surest way to financial success. Don't forget the importance of avoiding mistakes with your own money. Okay, now let's jump into this week's financial questions. And if you do have a question, feel free to submit it to me and it may be answered in a future episode. Okay, here's the first question. The yeshiva where I send my kids is raising tuition by 10%, which is outrageous. Granted, I live in an out of town community, so the prices are not as astronomical as the New York, Los Angeles areas, but how can we stop raising rates, especially when the burden falls only on a small segment of the parent body who's actually paying full tuition? Dude, this is called inflation. The cost of everything goes up over time. This includes housing, milk, property taxes, the subway, eggs, etc. In order for yeshiva to afford their ongoing and increasing bills, tuition does need to go up over time. I certainly can appreciate how yeshiva tuition is expensive. However, the alternate universe you're describing where prices don't increase is hallucinatory. I imagine your salary goes up with inflation, and if it doesn't, you need a new job. The same is necessary with all the people employed by yeshiva. Now that we cover the fact that yeshiva tuition must go up over time, let's now explore strategies that may help you pay for it. I can't comment on whether a 10% increase is too high since I don't know the current price of the school, how it compares to other yeshivas in the area, and don't know the last time the tuition was raised. But let's assume that it's an extra few $1,000s a year. You can probably squeeze the extra cash out of your current cash flow by going through your expenses and making some cuts. Netflix and various streaming services are low-hanging fruit. These are things that are not necessary, and yeshiva tuition should take priority. I assume if you're tight for cash, you're not saving in your 401k, but if you are, I'd recommend lowering your contribution rate. You should refrain from going out to eat or ordering in food. When you buy groceries, stay away from meat and more expensive items. None of these cuts are easy, but the decision to send your child to yeshiva probably is. Make the necessary adjustments to your monthly budget so you can handle the increase. If that's not financially possible, I imagine the Tuition Assistance Committee will be happy to work with you to ensure you can afford the new price tag. Expecting prices of any item to remain stagnant for years is not the way the world works, except in Japan, which has experienced multiple decades of stagflation, but I imagine the yeshiva options there are not too robust. Next question. What type of retirement account should I set up for my business? So this depends on a variety of factors. How many W-2 employees do you have? How much money do you make? How open are you to spending money to set up a plan and having discussions about maintenance of your company plan every year? What's your tax status? These questions may seem irrelevant or silly, but the corporate retirement plan space is very nuanced and convoluted. Also, people have different preferences. I have clients in the same field that have different types of plans. I also work with folks who elected to not set up a corporate retirement plan because they didn't want to deal with the headache. There are a myriad of different options one can use to save for retirement, like a SEP, a simple, solo 401k, which is something I use, traditional 401k, a Roth 401k with profit sharing, 401k with a profit sharing and a cash balance plan. If you can also just save in a regular taxable account, which is a lot, which is a lot of what my clients do, spend the time and money to work with professionals to guide you through the process. If you aren't willing to spend the time and money, you will inevitably make a bad decision and will cost you a lot of money and a headache down the road. And that's a good rule for life as well. Is moving to Israel a smart financial decision? And this is a case by case determination. I imagine someone who's older with major health issues will probably have less financial stress if they move to Israel, which has socialized medicine. There may be more stress related to non financial areas of medicine because it's a socialized healthcare system. Real estate seems to be quite pricey in many parts of Israel, and getting a mortgage may be more onerous. Cars are more costly in Israel. Finding employment that supports your lifestyle may be more challenging without fluent Hebrew, army experience, and a strong social network. I'm sure there are some people that get a great job in Israel with attractive income. However, the reality is people don't move to Israel for financial reasons. They move because they are Zionists and want to live in the Holy Land. That lifestyle decision is what is motivating them. Moving for money may not work out in the long run. And as an Israeli once told me, the best way to make a small fortune in Israel is to move there with a large one. Oh, the next question here is a real treasure. Here we go. Aren't you embarrassed that you can't consistently give wrong advice? Wow. Well, let's start with here. I'm rarely wrong. This may seem arrogant or overly confident, but it's the truth. As they say in the Alter Heim, it's better to be honest than modest. You may disagree with me or have differing opinions that are likely misguided, but I'm probably the one who's correct when it comes to personal finance. I've been in this field for a while, almost 20 years, and I've seen a lot. I also spend more time than most researching, reading, reviewing, writing, and speaking on these topics. Granted, there's certainly plenty that I don't know, and I can make mistakes from time to time. I also believe that I can learn from everybody, including folks who are not in the field. However, to assert that I'm consistently giving wrong advice after the amount of time I have dedicated to learning and teaching about the subject, the number of people I work with, and the amount of high quality content I put out is delusional. Perhaps you're new to personal finance, found a blog or a financial guru who you connect with, or a slick salesman who's promoting some exciting nourishkeit that you are eager to buy into. Keep in mind, if their advice is diametrically opposed to mine, you are likely headed down the wrong path. On the other hand, if you stick to my advice, you will likely end up on excellent financial footing. Consider yourself forewarned. Next question, last question for this week. Is Social Security taxed in Israel? Social Security benefits are exempt from taxation per Article 21 of the U.S. Israel Tax Treaty. Okay, that's it for financial questions this week. And by the way, if you have a more advanced or more involved personal finance situation, feel free to reach out directly to me. Perhaps my team and I can help you. The best way to get a hold of me is via email at jonathan@parkbridgewealth.com. And finally, I'd like to end with a timely and actionable idea that listeners can implement to their own financial lives. And today's timely idea is not getting the goalpost to stop moving or trying to get the goalpost to stop moving. This concept is often referred to as lifestyle creep. One of the factors that drives successful people is setting lofty goals and working to achieve them. The problem is the endless pursuit of bigger and bigger goals causes a lack of contentment and satisfaction with their lives. Always wanting more ultimately leaves folks to have less. From a lifestyle perspective, it will lead to spending more money to increase your lifestyle, to have nicer things and going on nicer trips, which will lead to spending yourself into oblivion. Financially, it will lead to reaching for higher returns, which will lead to taking on more risks that may blow up your nest egg. The trick is to maintain your lifestyle and a sense of purpose as you continue to achieve more financial success. For some people, this comes naturally to them, where they stay grounded and down to earth despite their vast wealth. This brings to mind the following story shared by Vanguard founder Jock Bogle, which I've mentioned before, but is always worth revisiting because it offers phenomenal perspective. It went as follows. At a party given by billionaire on Shelter Island, the late Kurt Vonnegut informs his pal, the author Joseph Heller, that their host, a hedge fund manager, had made more money in a single day than Heller had earned from his wildly popular novel Catch 22 over its whole history. Heller responds, yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough. And with that, it's a wrap for this week's show. Any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to me directly via email. I love hearing from my listeners. And finally, the secret to financial success is no secret at all. It's to spend less than you make, invest the difference prudently, and ignore all the noise. See you next time on Jonathan on Money.